Welcome. It is great to see everyone. I hope that you grabbed something to drink, preferably something warm to drink. You'll see why as we dig into this evening's conversation. This is a special mug for me because you'll see here it's DTS. I have yet to get the word back. I should find out mid next week, but we'll find out for sure if I get accepted into their THM Masters of Theology. It's a 120-hour class. Should take 4 to 6 years. So if you are a praying type, pray that happens. I hope it does happen. Well, man, it is exciting to be here. Welcome to the live stream. There's a few things that are kind of new that are going on. You'll see actually in the actual slide, or you'll see the comments populating. Hopefully that won't be too distracting. If it is, let me know. I can pull those down and just let that be the people that want to see them. But I am excited for this conversation. This is definitely this is part 4. We're diving into Ellen G. White, the life of Ellen G. White. And it's not like very many episodes I've seen, very many series that I've seen. This is a particular charge that we're looking at, and that is the charge of hypocrisy. Did Ellen G. White really practice what it was that she preached and she requested and demanded from her followers? Now, as you have probably already noticed, I don't like to do things surface level. This is not a surface level analysis. This is a very deep level. We're going to roll up our sleeves. I'm going to tell you right now, this is going to be a longer live stream. I don't know if it will be 2.5 or if it will be 3 hours. This is a lot. I've got over 100 slides that we're going to work through. Some we'll work through very quickly. But all I have to say is buckle up. This is a this is a fun topic. We are not going to sugarcoat the narrative, pun intended. Now, throughout the stream, as I did last time, we will be presenting Ellen G. White's own words, along with a few other individuals that were with Ellen G. White. We'll even be getting some interview items from a granddaughter of Ellen G. White. We are not just looking at the surface. We're going to provide context. We're going to provide clarity. I would encourage you, please test and review the receipts that I bring, okay? So if I share something with you, I would ask that you take a screenshot of it, come back and pause it, look up these documents, look up the manuscripts, find them for yourself, and make sure that I'm not taking these out of context, because that is a common charge that I get. Now, I am going to, as I did previously, I'm going to share these documents and these receipts in a way that you will be able to see very easily the timestamp of when these actually took place. I double-checked, triple-checked, quadruple-checked a few of them. I did a little research and I was trying to make sure that the year was exactly right. I had some conflicting ideas and opinions on the dates, so you're welcome to check those. Please do. Okay, check my findings on those. But I do my best to provide the best of the best when we look at these documents. Now, I will say this. It was pretty interesting to me that I got a response from an Adventist, just as we get started. I got a response recently from an Adventist apologist. I'm going to leave his name off because I'm not looking to poke the bear, so to speak. But the response was, well, yeah, I'm not going to be responding to your videos anymore. Take that for what it is. I don't know if that's because I'm bringing too much heat. I don't know if it's because there's too much evidence. I'm taking that as there isn't much that can be said because we're just providing what it is. So the pivotal question that really is this particular discussion is this. Was Ellen G. White truly the spirit of prophecy as she believed and as the Adventist Church still teaches today? Was she the spirit of prophecy? Or, and this is what I'm positing, should she be seen as the spirit of hypocrisy? That's the question. And we're going to explore her strict warnings against specifically sweets as it relates to health reasons that she deemed were shown to her from God. And I'm going to show you conclusively that these items diverged from her own personal practices. Now, we're not just looking at sweets, okay? But that's one area we're going to dialogue on. She criticized parents for offering indulgent foods to her kids while seemingly overlooking her own family's access to the exact same things. So, some of you that are new might be asking, Mike, why should I care about this? Aren't you just, and I hear this a lot, Mike, you're just nitpicking, every potential issue that Ellen White had. I mean, come on, she was a human. Why do you have to just move along? Why do you have to do this? Well, here's the reason why I think this is important. Okay? The reason that we're broaching this topic in this very specific manner is because of who Ellen G. White claimed she was and what she actually claimed about her own writings. So if she truly was a hypocrite, okay, if that's the case, this should raise very critical questions about her integrity and the integrity of her teachings and whether her guidelines truly reflected her own lifestyle, and should we even listen to this individual? That's the reason why we're broaching this conversation in this way. Now, this is part 4 of a series. I don't have how many episodes it's going to be. It's going to be until we get done with it is what it's going to be. It'll be what it'll be. But we're going to grapple with her role as either a hypocrite or a genuine messenger of the Lord. That's on the table. You determine as we go through this. Are her books and teaching worthwhile? Do they provide insight? Should she be someone that we should pay attention to? Or should they be regarded and considered, in light of her contradictions, as something else? Now, if you're new here and you like this channel and you like, as you go through the evening and you enjoy what it is that we offer, I would ask you to kind of support me in a couple of different ways, whatever is best for you. Number one, please subscribe, please like, please turn on the notifications, please share this with your friends, family, colleagues, whoever it might be that might find this interesting. And then secondly, if you can, please engage. Okay? Engage in the chat. Share this content with others. All I ask is that as we're engaging, please do your best to engage in the dialogue of what we're discussing. Okay? That would be a huge, big deal. Tonight's topic is specifically on sweets, spices, and hot drinks. That's what we're covering. Okay? All right, so the third way that I would absolutely love to have you engage with me on is scan the QR code and join our Discord channel. We actually are up to about 71 people now. I'm calling this more of a Bible nerd group. We're from all different walks of life, all different denominations. It's not about unifying as a denomination. It is about unifying around truth and wrestling with the text together. We will dialogue on things about Adventism, things not about Adventism, biblical text, topics, books. There's all kinds of stuff that we discuss. If you've got questions, this is the best place to get access to myself as well as any of the other Bible nerds that are in that group. And I so appreciate the community that is growing in that group. Now, the next area that I would absolutely love to have your connection on is if you head over to the website, The Thinking Cup, the blog website. This is where you're going to find all of the research articles, my knowledge base. You'll see that at the top. You can get the YouTube channel, blog articles, knowledge base of all of my articles I haven't published. That will be coming, be very, very much used as I get into my master's program, as I share some of that information. And I will probably be creating a little bit more of a members-only group to kind of engage in some of the content that I'm learning through my master's program. So please do subscribe. And then here's the join Discord as well, and any kind of contact that you want. Now, if you're looking to support this venture and this ministry financially, I'm going to be providing a little bit more details about this in a very specific way in the next couple of weeks. But I have put a donate button up there. Again, I'm not going to promote that much, but if that's something that you desire and you want to be a part of, I would absolutely love for you to be a part of the financial side of the sport. Lastly, and in my opinion, most importantly, if you want to support me at a high level, I would love to have you pray for the impact of this ministry. That is what is most important to me. This is not about Mike Colburn. This is about sharing truth and exposing lies. And so if you want to really embrace this opportunity in ministry, please pray. Pray that God would break the shackles of poor theology. Pray that others would be set free by truth. And when I say truth, I mean Jesus Christ, the reigning King and Priest. That's what I would absolutely love to have you participate with me in. All right, now as we dive in, as we analyze these contradictions and present Ellen G. White and kind of what she has to say on the topic, let's kind of reflect just a little bit on the broader implication. What does it mean when a leader, a teacher, a preacher, a prophet, a prophetess preaches one thing but practices an entirely different thing? What does that mean? What is the implications of that? How does it shape the community that follows that individual? So, friends, grab a drink, preferably grab a hot drink. I would love for you to do that. Settle in. Let's unravel the complexities of Ellen G. White's life together. This is going to be grounded in solid research, not just Mike's opinion. Trust me, you are not going to want to miss any minute of tonight's conversation. Let's get started. All right, so we're going to dive straight in. We're going to kick it off with really kind of just the beginning point. I'm going to point out really as we dive into this, she once said something that I actually truly believe is very profound. And here's what Ellen G. White says. Now, this is really important because this is from Testimonies for the Church. These particular writings were barricaded by a "Thus saith the Lord." In fact, she saw these writings in particular as surrounding the scripture and kind of protecting it. They barricade it against any falsehood. And so she says this: above all things, we should not, with our pens, advocate positions that we do not put to a practice in our own families, upon our own tables. This is dissimulation, a species of hypocrisy, a species of hypocrisy. So, now that's a call, in my opinion, for authenticity. Okay? No preaching one thing and doing something else. So that's kind of the caveat. That's the beginning point that I want you to keep that in the back of your mind when you're seeing all of these quotes pop up on the screen and when you're looking at it. Okay? She advocated for, and even advocated for her followers, that we should always be living up to the things that we are telling others are truth. Okay? Otherwise, and specifically about the things we put on our tables, otherwise, that is a species, that is a kind of hypocrisy. Hypocrisy. Now, as early as we dive into this, as early as 1858, Ellen G. White labeled rich cakes, pies, and puddings as harmful. She says this: because it is the fashion in harmony with morbid appetite, rich cakes, pies, and puddings, and every hurtful thing are crowded into the stomach. The table must be loaded down with a variety, or a depraved appetite cannot be satisfied. In the morning, these slaves to appetite often have impure breath and a furred tongue. They do not enjoy health and wonder why they suffer with these pains. Many eat 3 times a day, and again just before going to bed. In a short time, the digestive organs are worn out, and they have had no time to rest. These become miserable dyspeptics and wonder what has made them so. Can you imagine, for a second, can you imagine this to be true? Just the food, like, man, this really, just put yourself in, this is the prophet of God claiming these things to be the case. Now, I want to fast forward to 1883. That was 1858. So we're fast forwarding almost 30 years, okay? And she was actively advising her followers not to bring some of these rich cakes and pies, okay, to camp meetings. She says this: we should not devote this precious time to needless labor merely to gratify the appetite. We have not come here to indulge in feasting. Those who have taken charge of our restaurant at previous camp meetings have had the privilege of attending but few of the meetings. Much care and thought were given to the preparation of the food, the cooking of meat, pie, cake, and a variety of other dishes that please the appetite. Now, I'm going to pause here and say this is evidence that these types of things were actually going on. Okay, they were actually cooking and bringing these things during camp meetings. Okay, this is evidence of that. Okay, back to Ellen White and her quote. Was this necessary? Well, I think not, she says. A few simple articles of food prepared with care and skill would supply all of our real wants and at the same time would do no injury to stomach or brain. Notice that she believed that these other things brought injury to the stomach and the brain. Okay? The food should be abundant in quantity and of good quality and should not be compelled to live. We should not be compelled to live on a meat diet because nothing else is provided to supply its place. The money that is expended in buying meat would purchase a good variety of fruits and vegetables and grains. Meat is not essential for health or strength, else the Lord made a mistake. Here we go. When he provided food for Adam and Eve before the fall. All the elements of nutrition are contained in the fruits, vegetables, and grains. Now, I am not going to get into the details on whether or not all of the nutrients that are needed post the fall are actually contained in fruits, vegetables, and grains. That's actually a falsehood. But this is what she's saying, okay? I mean, who would have thought that dessert, I see some comments, that blueberry pie, for example, or strawberry jam, or pudding, for all practical purposes, who would have thought that those types of items would have stirred up such strong condemnation and feelings in the followers of this prophetess? Now, if we move to 1894, again, this is 11 years later, Ellen is going to claim that when we finally banish sweet puddings and those concentrated jellies and jams from the table, then living a Christian life would actually be easier. She says this: what kind of health reformers are we? I think we need to consider this question much more critically. We do not need a large variety of dishes on the table at the same meal. We might better dispense with the sweet puddings and concentrated jellies and jams and marmalade. Oh, dare you not have any marmalade, which set up a fermentation in the stomach. Oh, that's what happens. Now, pay attention to what she says. When these are banished forever from our table, it will make easier to live a Christian life. For there will be sweeter stomachs, and the result will be sweeter tempers. Really? Really? Now, that's a rather interesting perspective. So, this perspective suggests that indulging in treats actually complicate and damage our spiritual journey. That's what she's saying in context. No, once you get all of these pleasures of life out of the way, once you do that, okay, then now you can live a Christian life. I mean, friends, talk about a sweet dilemma. That's between a roll and a Danish is what it is. Usually it's between a rock and a hard place. Now, later on that year, as it's actually in the same exact year, but later on in that year, she specifically warned against placing sweet cakes, puddings, and custards on the table of Seventh-day Adventists. She says this. This is just a year. This is not a year later. This is the same year. Okay, 1894. Many understand how to make different kinds of cakes, but cake is not the best food to be placed upon the table. Sweet cakes, sweet puddings, and custards will destroy the digestive organs. And why should we tempt those who surround the table by placing such articles before them? The more largely flesh composes the diet of teachers and pupils, the less susceptible will be the mind to comprehend spiritual things. Now, hold on. Please understand what she's saying here. The more meat that you eat, the less able you are to comprehend spiritual things. That's what she's claiming in this quote. She goes on. The animal propensities are strengthened. I don't even know what that means. The animal propensities are strengthened, and the fine sensibilities of the mind are blunted. So please, friends, notice this is 1894. She claims a very strong thing. She claims that eating sweets, sweet cakes, sweet puddings, custards, that those things destroy the organs. Now that's scientifically inaccurate. Now, you got to eat a lot and you might get diabetes. Okay? A lot. But sweet cakes, sweet puddings, and custards destroy the digestive organs. Now, I was an Adventist my entire life until about 2 years ago, a year and a half to 2 years ago. Third generation, fifth generation. And I want to ask those of you that have had any experience in Adventism, that have been to an Adventist potluck, how many times have you seen the dessert table covered in sweets? How many Adventists even take this seriously? Now, I think it's going to be a hypocritical statement, and we'll see why in a second. But she claims very clearly that cakes, puddings, custards destroy the organs, and it leads an individual to a place where you cannot comprehend spiritual things. And eventually it blunts your ability to think properly. Wow. That is a strong, strong statement. Now, if we fast forward to 1902, again, this is about within 15 years of Ellen G. White's death. This is near the end of her life, the last 10, 13 years of her life. She advises a fellow Adventist to toss out those rich pastries and desserts and anything else that tempts the appetite. She says this: let those who advocate health reform strive earnestly to make it all that they claim it is. Let them discard every detrimental to health. Use simple, wholesome food. Fruit is excellent, saves much cooking. Here we go. Discard rich pastries, cakes, desserts, and the other dishes prepared to tempt the appetite. Eat fewer kinds of food at one meal and eat with thanksgiving. Consider flesh meat, we can all say concerning it, let it alone. So here we go again, another statement, like she's saying, leave flesh meat alone. And all should bear a clear testimony. Now here we go, we're going to get into this tonight. Against tea, coffee, what does she say? Never use them. Never. They are narcotics, injurious alike to the brain and to the other organs of the body. So not only do they damage the brain by Ellen White, they damage all the organs of the body. That's a pretty bold claim. The time has not yet come when I could say, okay, here we go. She didn't really know, okay. The time hasn't come yet when I could say that the use of milk and eggs should be wholly discontinued. Milk and eggs should not be classed with flesh meats. Oh, okay. She hadn't gotten that yet from God. In some ailments, the use of eggs is very beneficial. You're going to find why she makes that statement, okay, in a little while. Let the members of our churches deny every selfish appetite, every penny expended for tea, coffee, and flesh meat is worse than wasted. Wow. For these things hinder the best development, pay attention, of the physical, mental, and spiritual powers. So she claims, I want to be very clear in context, she claims, Ellen G. White explicitly connects tea, coffee, and flesh meat to being a complete waste, okay, number one, and secondly, that they prevent you from being able to develop properly physically, mentally, and spiritually. Now, I want you to just hold on for a second on this one, okay? How many pastors, now I know several pastors in my Adventist connections that drink coffee regularly, that drink tea instead of coffee because it's not supposedly quite as bad. I know many that eat flesh meat. So, just saying that, okay? And one of the things that I'll mention is what's really fascinating is that Ellen G. White and her hypocrisy breeds other leaders that are hypocritical in their own walk of life. Now, that's not me saying I'm perfect, okay? I have many times been a hypocrite. I am not claiming to be a prophet, though. I do not claim, and I never will claim to be a prophet. Okay, so just understand, she's claimed to be a prophetess. Now, she already said that you should not do things differently than what it is that you preach. All right, we're going to fast forward a little bit further in the narrative. This is 1905. This is almost 10 years before she passes away. She expresses concern about cakes, sweets, sweet puddings, pastries, jellies, jams. Okay, they all cause to her statement. Okay, far too much sugar is ordinarily put into food. Cakes, sweet puddings, pastries, jellies, jams, and are active causes of indigestion, especially harmful. Now, here you go. Pay attention. We're going to see custard come up later, and pudding, and milk, and eggs, and sugar. We're going to see all this stuff happen, okay? Especially harmful are the custards and puddings in which milk, eggs, and sugar are the chief ingredients. Wait a second. I thought like 5 years ago she was like, well, no, I mean, this kind of is okay still. I haven't yet gotten, I guess this is why apologists call this progressive truth. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I shouldn't be so sarcastic. Let's go back to the quote. The free use of milk and sugar taken together should be avoided. All right. So this is what she's claiming. Now, what she highlights here, okay? Notice that she highlighted that custards and puddings made from milk, eggs, and sugar were particularly harmful. For those of us that have felt the aftermath of one too many sweets, like I've been there, right? I've had one too many sweets, but this is taking it to a whole different level. I mean, an entirely different level. This is actually connecting it, and you're going to see this in a second, to being a sin. Ellen was especially worried, ironically, about other people's kids having access to sugary treats. She aggressively criticized parents who indulged their children with rich pastries and feeling that these choices were damaging to the health, as she would say. Here's what she says. Parents, now this is 1887, okay? Parents are many times responsible in this matter. They educate the taste of their children by indulging them in the use of unhealthy articles. They permit them to eat rich pastries and highly seasoned food, and to drink tea and coffee. They are thus laying the foundation, here we go, for perverted appetites and ruining the health of their children. They should help them in this respect and not place temptation in their way. Now, she's going to lament, in just a second, you're going to see she's going to lament that parents have in all practical ways backslidden. They are, she got so aggressive about this that she said that these parents are waging a warfare against the health reform. Now that is, if you don't think that this kind of quote that you're going to see in just a second is a way of weaponizing your message and using it as a way to control and create harm on people. I don't know what is. Here's what she says. Parents have backslid and have instituted a warfare against health reform. Mothers suffer their children to eat irregularly and to dress unhealthfully. Now, I'm going to pause for a second. Did you know that apparently by God's standards that you can actually damage your health by not dressing properly? Now, we'll eventually, I promise you, we will eventually get to Ellen White's dress ideas. They're fascinating. They're horribly hypocritical, but they're fully driven by money, okay? But I guess the only way that you would actually remain healthy with dress is if you bought Ellen White's health reform dress items. Yes, she sold actual items that you too could create the dress that is healthy for your child. Made money off of it. Let's go back to the quote. Mothers suffer their children to eat irregularly and to dress unhealthfully, and through indulgence in unwholesome diet, they are educating them for more pernicious things. I don't think I said that word right. It's not a common word I use. Children and youth should not be undernourished in the least degree. They should have an abundance of healthful food. But this does not mean that it is proper to place before them, here we go, rich cakes and pastries. They should have the best of exercise and the best of food, for these have an important bearing upon the condition of, here we go, the mental and moral power. A proper, wholesome diet will be one of the means whereby healthful digestion may be preserved. Now, I'm not advocating here for no exercise or don't go outside and get healthy fresh air. Like, yes, you should be healthy. Yes. But this woman took it to a whole different level and claimed that you could develop physically, spiritually, mentally, and she is going to explicitly say these things are a sin in just a second. So, to sum this initial starting segment up, Mrs. White was very, very clear about what you should avoid. In her book, supposedly divinely given to her from heaven, she claims that sweet foods, cakes, custards, jams, jellies, pastries, pies, and puddings were all condemned, as well as, obviously, as we have already seen, any kind of meat should be thrown out. But here's what we are working through this evening. Did Ellen G. White actually follow the same guidelines set forth for others? Did she actually abide by her own statement in Testimonies to the Church that we should not do things differently than what we preach, otherwise we are hypocritical? Now, let's take a look at some personal anecdotes from Ellen G. White's life that might kind of it's gonna shake things up a little bit. It's gonna sweeten the sauce, so to speak. It might even, who knows, it might ferment it and sour it. We'll see what happens and what shakes loose as we look at her own dietary principles. Now, in her own diary, she had an entry from February 21, 1868, where she mentions this idea of fixing pudding for dinner while camping in Colorado. Now, I thought we just read that pudding was evil and should be discarded. But here's what she says. Sunday, February 23, 1868. This is a journal entry. She says, "My husband spoke in the morning. I did not attend meeting. Wrote a part of the time and cooked gems and pudding for dinner. When the people returned, they were overjoyed to hear the subject of Sabbath made so plain. They all said they never heard the like before." Now, I thought pudding damaged your ability to understand spiritual things, Ellen G. White. Didn't she say that? I thought that was the case. So maybe she's confused on the topic of Sabbath. Huh. Maybe. Now, picture this for just a second. Picture this. It's the 1890s. They're out in nature. And one of the ladies, camping with the Whites, bakes some delicious raspberry pie. They enjoyed some slices and even traded the rest of the mountain trout. Yes, she ate meat, okay? The mountain trout. Now, that's what I would call this great camp cuisine. I mean, who wouldn't want this, right? But notice what is said. On the encampment grounds near our tent were miners. The men devoted their spare time to fishing and hunting. Huh. Ellen G. White, you're allowing your followers to kill animals and eat them? Now, fishing's fish, but what's hunting? Interesting. Our time was spent in riding and horseback riding in search of raspberries. We found an abundance of fruit. We secured a block of wood, which we used as a table, and found a bottle, which we used for a rolling pin. Now, this is pure on like early Ellen G. White survival episode going on. Mrs. Hall prepared and baked in our camp stove oven some very nice, here we go, berry pies. These she divided with the campers, and in return, they brought us mountain trout. I thought it was evil to eat meat. Huh. All right. Now, this is 1876. Let's rewind for just a little bit. Let's go back 20 years, where Sister White actually praises one of her workers for making excellent pies. Because one could argue in the camping one, well, that wasn't really filled with sugar, and maybe maybe those weren't really the kind of pies, so to speak. I mean, come on. They were out in the middle of nowhere. They probably weren't sweet. Well, let's look about 20 years ago from that incident. I am writing frequently 20 pages a day. I have dropped sketches of life. Now, notice that this is a reference to her work called Sketches of the Life of Christ. That will be a whole other topic at some point. But I have dropped sketches of life, but we have got off 2 more forms of the testimony. 1 more form will complete. Mary Chloe is just the same. She works with interest and cheerfulness. Shu, which is another individual, proves to be a precious help. I don't know how we could keep house without him. What does he do? He makes bread. Just excellent pies and buns, and cooks vegetables. Ellen, do I need to remind you, Ellen, of what you said, that pies prevent you from understanding spiritual things, Ellen? Ellen. Back to the quote. All that they have paid him as yet is $2 each week. Till this last week, 2.5. Shall pay 3 in 2 weeks, and she goes on. Mary is teaching him to cook. He is neat, takes care of the whole house. Now, it seems like pies as I've done my research, pies seem to be a very special place in her heart. We're going to actually see this come out in an interview from Ellen G. White's granddaughter coming up. Don't go away. Now, let's fast forward back closer to the previous incident. Let's go to 1892. What does she say? She reminisces about indulging in another item that I thought blunted the spiritual mind. All ate as if they relished the food. Excellent raspberries were obtained fresh from the vines. By the way, those are the best. And they were so nice and fresh. I enjoyed them much. There were new potatoes and green peas. And whoa, hold on a second, Ellen. Rice pudding? Ellen, do I need to keep telling you this, Ellen? You have told me that these are not helpful. They prevent you from physically, mentally, and spiritually developing. I guess she forgot about what she was telling other people to pay attention to. Now, let's not forget that an incident in the early 1900s, I believe this is right around 1904. I put early 1900s because I couldn't nail it down. I think it's 1904 when Mrs. White was traveling with a party and was treated to jelly and cream sticks. She says this, nearing New Orleans, again, she's traveling. They passed through great swamps where many varieties of palms were heavily festooned with moss. Just west of New Orleans, Elder S.B. Horton, president of the Louisiana Conference, and E.B. Orrell, secretary of the Southern Union, met the train bringing a basket of fruit. So far, so good, Ellen. This supplemented the provisions they had taken from home and from Southern California for their meals. Malted nuts for soup, zwieback, cream sticks, oranges, bananas, apples, applesauce, olives, nuts, jelly, turnovers, boiled eggs, and bread. Now, if you're wondering, I don't know if you're up on what cream sticks are. I haven't had a cream stick, okay? If you're not up on what a cream stick is, think of them as the early version of an au clair or a long john. Okay, that's really what they were. They were basically cylindrical pastries that were filled with cream, custard, other sweet fillings. They basically were a donut. Okay, they were often topped with icing, powdered sugar. Sounds delicious, right? Sounds heaven. It's like a heavenly contradiction. Ellen, do I need to keep telling you this, Ellen? Yes. But here's where it gets a bit cheeky, okay? It appears that while they were traveling, especially when they were traveling, that all of these dietary rules that she previously discussed earlier were just thrown out. Like, it didn't matter because now we're traveling and now it doesn't really matter. This is the same thing that happens when they are on holidays. It's almost like these strict guidelines went completely out the window when it came to enjoying life on the road. Like, oh, you're on the road, who cares? Right? No one's going to know. So what, honest question, what do you make of this, friends? What should we, if you're a follower of her, what should we make of this? Is it justified as bending the rules for special occasions? Is it okay on certain occasions to eat things that stunt your spiritual growth, but on other occasions it's not? Or should we stick to them? Now, if you're into bad dad jokes, okay, I'm going to throw one in, okay? I always tell people that you can eat as much of this stuff as you... There's not a single calorie in any of these things. I can prove it to you because they're all married and have kids. Ha, 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 ha. Don't laugh all at once. All right, so maybe this is angel food cake. Maybe that's what it is. Okay, I don't know. I'm not sure what's going on, but let's dive in to some other interesting contradictions that pop up with Ellen G. White's life that might just raise an eyebrow or two. We're going to peek behind the curtain, Kate. While she is vehemently advocating for keeping sweets away from kids, her own behavior with her own grandchild, her own granddaughter, tells a very different tale. Now, Ellen G. White's granddaughter, and I'm going to give you some backdrop to what this is, okay? Ellen G. White's granddaughter, by the name of Grace, actually revealed that Ellen's grandkids encouraged pretty much all sweets. Now, if you're looking for this entire interview, you can find this, okay? This is not difficult to find. This is Dinner at Elmshaven, an interview with Grace Jacques, June 8. Now, this is from 1978, okay? Her granddaughter would have been probably around 13, 14, 15 years old, okay, when most of these things took place. Now, I want you to see, this is actually a snapshot, and you're going to see several snapshots from the actual interview, okay? Now, this interview was actually done, well, let me just kind of read this. The interview took place here by the granddaughter of Ellen G. Weiss, conducted by Dr. Patricia B. Much at the workshop called Ellen G. White and Dietetics, sponsored by the Department of Home Economics at Andrews University in 1978. Okay. Now, the information recorded here reflects what she observed in Ellen White's home, Elmshaven, near St. Helen, California, during the last years. This is important to catch. During the last years of her life. Now, here's what pops up. Now, there's going to be some questions, and again, I'm not intentionally leaving out the interview. You can read it. It's actually quite fascinating, and it causes lots of questions, okay? But here, there's going to be question, and then her granddaughter is going to respond, okay? Did they ever use fruit butters or anything that would be close to a preserve? And she asks, you mean close to a jam? Yes. We put strawberry jam, blackberry jam, longberry jam. We ate it sparingly, I would say, but grandmother was not one to say, interesting here, no, you can't have any of this. But she would say, eat it moderately. You know, don't eat too much, but enjoy a slice of bread and cream and strawberry jam. It's delicious. Now, does that line up with what she was telling everyone else? She goes on. We would have prunes as a dessert. By the way, I don't know that I would ever want to try prunes as a dessert. Yes, with a little bit of cream. It was very good. And then what about desserts? Other desserts did we have? Well, we had, here we go again, tapioca pudding. Hey, I thought that was damaging to the spiritual life. A simple dessert, you would call it, but there were milk and eggs, but not overly sweet, just enough to be tasty. Oh, and here we go again, baked custard, and that's one place we used a little touch of nutmeg, just a little flavor. Now, notice this, a little anecdote here. Ellen White apparently liked lemon pie, at least she mentions that, plain lemon pie. She goes on, evidently she did. Ellen, you're supposed to know these things, Ellen. This is damaging to your life, Ellen. She goes on, well, I've seen them cook it, but I never made a lemon pie. The cook made it. I didn't make the lemon pies. I apologize for it being cut off just a little bit on the right-hand side. I don't care for desserts, so it is kind of hard for me to talk too much about desserts because I didn't like desserts. I would make my own birthday cake, and I didn't eat cake till I was 16. It's an acquired art for me. Oh, you asked about fruits. Sometimes we would have melon. We grew our own melons and had lovely grapes of all kinds of peaches. You know, last year we had peaches from June 10th till November 6th. We had sliced peaches every day fresh from the orchard. Now, on a side note, in order to have all of these things, it's just a point of reference. Please don't forget that this is late 1800s, early 1900s. It was wildly expensive to grow fruit, to have an orchard, to have all of these pies and pastries and all these things. Okay, this is an expensive lifestyle. Okay, so but notice also the likes of strawberry jam, blackberry jam, longberry jam, an occasional pumpkin pie, lemon pie, along with tapioca pudding and bread pudding. And now, if you didn't know, the main ingredients, I think someone already mentioned it, in tapioca and bread pudding and even rice pudding, and there's a lot of sugar in rice pudding, okay? But in tapioca and bread pudding, it's milk, sugar, and eggs. I thought you weren't supposed to combine milk and sugar. Ellen, you need to read your own writings, Ellen. So it sure seems like there was a sweet smorgasbord going on at Grandma Ellen's kitchen. Now, I don't blame Ellen. Like, when you go to Grandma's, you're supposed to have this kind of stuff, right? I mean, over the river and through the woods to Grandmother Ellen's place we go to find all of the hypocritical things that we're not supposed to have. But wait, it's going to get even more interesting. Let's transition for just a second from sweets into spices. I want to move into the conversation about spices, and specifically about pepper, specifically. Ellen White issues a statement against what's called using stimulants, including pepper. And many Seventh-day Adventists actually took this statement and currently take this statement to heart and even removed black pepper from their tables entirely. My parents specifically won't touch pepper. They won't touch it. They won't touch vinegar. They won't touch pepper. They won't touch meat. They won't have it in their house. They think it's evil. And it's because of what we're going to look at as we move forward here. In 1868, Ellen White expressed her frustration that some SDA members weren't following her teachings about pepper. Check out what she writes. Monday, we visited Sister Jeffrey. Found her sick upon her back. I entreated her just as soon as she was able to have them take her to the Health Institute. I expect she will come. We came here last evening, found Sister Levi sick. The people fail to come right up to the mark upon eating and drinking, but more especially upon working. People worry and work and gratify the taste, and here we go, eat pepper, spice, and meat, and then are sick. What will move them to act out the truths they have heard? Now, friends, please understand that when Ellen is claiming a truth, this is not I conjured this up in my own mind. That's not what she's thinking. She believes that this is from heaven, directed of God, to get rid of pepper, spice, meats, that those things make a person sick. Now, it really sounds like she was genuinely concerned for both of these individuals' lives. She was frustrated, right? They're eating these things and they're making them sick. That was where her frustration came from. It was really behind the health choices that they were making. And she believed that there was a truth that they were not paying attention to. And then in 1883, so again, the previous quote, 1868, now we're moving to 1883. Then in 1883, she instructed the SDA community that food should be prepared as simply as possible, absolutely free from condiments and spices. Every mother should carefully guard her table and allow nothing to come upon it which will have the slightest tendency to lay the foundation of intemperate habits. Food should be prepared in as simple a manner as possible. Here we go. Free from condiments and spices, and even from an undue amount of salt. I don't know about you, but I love condiments. I really do. Apparently, she believed that they were evil, and I will prove that point in just a short second. So, you should prepare these in Ellen's mind, avoiding any kind of condiments and spices. Now, this is 1883. So fast forward 3 years to 1886. And this is what she makes. She makes it very clear that pepper and mustard should not be put into the human stomach. My habits were out of harmony with the conditions that were necessary to health. My food, she's talking of her own experience, my food had not been of a proper kind to give vitality and strength to the system. It was highly seasoned and stimulating rather than nutritious. The physician said that I might die at any time. And I resolved that if I die, I would die in attempting to correct my injurious habits of life. I resolved, remember 1886, I resolved to place myself on a platform of strictest temperance. I did not use tea or coffee or any kind of intoxicating wine or liquor, so I did not have those habits to overcome. Pay attention. Pay attention. She claims no tea, no coffee, no wine, no liqueur. Now, if you've been with us so far, you know that this is a flat out, blatant lie, because she had wine and she absolutely had liqueur. She had cordials. We know that. She also drank vinegar that had wine in it, alcohol in it. So this is a straight up lie. Now you're going to see in a little bit she also lies about tea and coffee. Both of those, okay? She lied about it. Now the quote goes on. But, so she claims she didn't do any of those, but I had used flesh. I had done that. And spices. Eating hearty meals 3 times a day. So here was the problem. I had to educate myself to enjoy the simple, heartful grains and fruits that God has provided for the wants of man. But I found that all the sacrifice I had to make was doubly repaid to renewed health of body and mind. I had used pepper and mustard in my diet. These should not be put, here we go, should not be put into the human stomach. Now, pay attention to what she claims scientifically happens. Which is also, again, I'm not a scientist and I'm not going to go down this road, but this is factually false. Okay? The delicate membrane becomes inflamed, and the healthy tone of the stomach is lowered and the appetite is perverted. The taste loses its discernment, and the delicious flavors of grains, vegetables, and fruits become insipid and unpalatable. Holy cow! With that kind of language, who would ever want to put mustard and pepper in your mouth? Apparently, it destroys all ability to consume any other food. Goodness gracious. Now, here's what I will say. as we look at some of it, if you want to just do a quick search on some of this, okay? Wow, my screen went crazy different colors. I don't know why that happened. But if you want to do a quick search on this, I would encourage you to go to the University of Chicago Medicine, uchicago.medicine.org, and see what they have to say about, there's an article in 2018 that is on are spicy foods. Here we go. Let me share this screen here and show you what actually says here. Okay. A topic: are spicy foods healthy or dangerous? Okay. Now this is not just like, this is heat, but also pepper and some of the other things that she brings up. Is this actually damaging? Now, can it cause you ulcers? You can read all this stuff. Spicy foods don't cause hemorrhoids. They don't cause the issues, okay? It depends on how spicy they are. You heard of pepper spray, right? Yeah, you got to be pretty spicy in order to cause problems, okay? Can spicy foods cause stomach pain? Okay, and you can read through all this. What's the bottom lines? Here we go. I want you to catch this. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger for you all. I want you to catch this. What's the bottom line? Spicy foods are healthy. Spicy foods are healthy. Science says spicy foods are healthy. Okay? But you probably shouldn't get them in your eyes. Use gloves. Like, here's what science is telling you. They don't cause ulcers. But be careful if you have certain dietary issues. Okay? Spicy foods don't cause hemorrhoids. Regarding ridiculously spicy foods, yes, you probably shouldn't be eating ghost peppers. That's probably going to cause some problems. Okay? So I just want you to understand what's going on with regards to the topic. All right. So let's dive back in to the subject matter. Here we have a woman, okay? Here we've got a woman promoting her own concept, very clearly. This is her own concept of healthful living. Yet there are instances that we're going to find that she strays significantly from her own guidelines, especially as we already saw with her grandchildren enjoying treats. Now, my question to you, or to an onlooker that is currently an Adventist, my question to you is, how are you going to reconcile these two different sides of her life? How are you going to do that? Now, let's wrap up in a nice little taco. Let's wrap up our discussion with regards to spices, okay? As we look at this fascinating view on pepper, let's wrap this up and shift over to a little bit different stuff. But I want to pay attention real quickly to, and I think this is, let me make sure I've got, is this properly showing? Sorry, hang on just a second. Hopefully this is still showing properly. Yes, it is. Look at that. Technology is beautiful. So this is 1905. Now in 1905, this is 10 years before she passes away. She states very clearly that mustard, pepper, spices, pickles, and other things of a like character irritate the stomach. Now, that could be true, but I want you to pay attention to the next part. There are some people where those particular things do irritate the stomach. What does it say? And they make the blood feverish and impure. Feverish and impure. The inflamed condition of the drunkard's stomach is often pictured as illustrating the effect of alcoholic liquors. Similarly, now notice the connection here. She's claiming that mustard, pepper, spices, and pickles, and those things of that kind, okay? Condiments are injurious in their nature, but those things of that kind, she's going to make a connection that those are similar to what happens to a drunkard's stomach in the use of liquor. The similar inflamed condition is produced by the use of irritating condiments. Soon, ordinary food does not satisfy the appetite. The system feels a want, a craving for something more stimulating. Now, I'm just here to tell you that mustard, pepper, spices, and pickles do absolutely nothing to your blood. Okay, they do not make your blood impure. This is a lie. Okay, a complete lie. This does not happen. Pretty strong words, though, right? She makes some pretty asinine statements that she promotes to her followers. But here's where it gets again. This is where it gets a little crazy. Did she practice what she preached about pepper? If it's really this, if it actually does what she's claiming, okay? Here's what I want you to understand. This is 1905. If it actually does this, if it causes the blood to become feverish and impure, if that's the case, okay? If that's the case, then should we look at what she actually did with regards to this? Now, after her health reform vision was 1863. It appears, okay, it appears that she eliminated pepper from their household. But, now she's going to make that statement, okay, I eliminated it. But here's what happens. 1873, notice what she says. You said you heard Brother White ask Mr. Walling for a taste of cheese. Now, it's comical to me that they're bickering over this stuff, okay? It's just hilarious on the outside, an outsider looking in, okay? That you would even bicker about this stuff and talk about, like, I saw he had cheese, and I saw he had this. Now, does this still happen today? How many of you have attended an Adventist potluck and, oh, I saw so-and-so brought this, and oh, they brought that. Oh, did you see that they brought fish or chicken, or they brought this, or they brought that? Same. Guess where it comes from? This is an Ellen White thing. You asked him one day if he wanted some cheese. He said no. You asked me, and I said I did not eat it. The cheese lay in the cupboard, untouched. That's horrible. Until Mr. Leslie and Walling came to dinner. It was then placed before me. We took a small bit of cheese, as we do sometimes when it is passed to us. But we do not understand, he says, we do not buy cheese, she says, or make a practice of eating it. My husband felt when we saw the bit of cheese that was in Walling's wagon that we would like merely a taste of it. I had not had, to my knowledge, now here we go, this is pertaining to our thing, okay? I had not had, to my knowledge, a particle of pepper in the house for 10 years. Now, this is 1873. Her health vision was in 1863. That's the reason why she makes this 10-year statement, okay? Because this is since her health vision. When Lucinda, which is another individual that Adventist apologists hate and they tend to bicker about, okay? When Lucinda went up to Mr. Walling's mill, I said to her, get me a little pinch of pepper and I will try to eat some beans. Wait a second. I thought that she wasn't supposed to have it. And then she says why. I thought the pepper would perhaps prevent them from causing me to have colic. But I think so little of what I eat, it never enters my mind that there was any pepper. So much for pepper. I claim that we live very plain and economic. Now, understand here, okay? Just understand that In the same exact letter, this is letter 1, 1873. Okay, 10 years after the health message. In the same exact letter, she admits, she claims she didn't have it, and then she admits to having it. This is in her own letter a direct contradiction. So I guess we can call this maybe a necessary indulgence. Like, I guess it's justified to slip up, as long as it's, well, I was doing it for medical reasons, because of college. That's why I was doing it. Yeah, that's. But I don't really pay attention, right? Perhaps, I mean, I don't. This kind of hypocrisy really irritates me. This is the kind of stuff that happens. We have a church close by that's an Adventist church. It's probably within an hour. They are the most hypocritical group of people that if you show up at their potluck, now, I don't go anymore, but if you show up at their potluck and you don't have something that's, if you bring meat or cheese, or if it's not vegan, you will be literally thrown out. Because this is what Ellen taught. This is exactly what she taught. Now, it gets even more wilder. If we fast forward 4 years, okay? 4 years. 1877. Even after declaring that pepper makes people sick, it taints the blood, right? She prepared a cup of weak pepper tea for her sick husband. Dear children, Edson and Emma, your father had a very ill turn yesterday, which greatly alarmed us all. He had been working very hard and very successfully in disposing of difficult matters and in taking in hand cases that needs to be managed. He then sat up till midnight writing for the review. He seemed very cheerful. Something seemed to weigh upon his mind. In the morning he said he felt rather bad. I prepared a cup of weak red pepper tea. Now, friends, I'm going to ask you a question. If pepper causes damage, why is it okay in a medical reason to give it to someone who is unhealthy and sick? Does that make any sense? This is a complete hypocritical way of looking at this entire topic. She goes on, he called for articles he had taken upon his plate and placed the things beside his plate instead of in the plate. We saw that he could not see. This was done with several things. I persuaded him to leave the table, and I placed his feet at once in hot water and bathed his head. Now, clearly, he was sick. So apparently, when someone is sick, it's okay to give them things that make them sick. This doesn't make any sense. This is hypocrisy. This is ludicrous. This is asinine, is what it is. Now, let's not forget, okay? Last episode, the last time we were together, I brought up an incident in the 1880s. Fanny Bolton spotted Mrs. White at a restaurant enjoying pepper on her oysters. Don't forget about that. Now, as a little bit of a side note, I would encourage you, if any Adventist apologist begins to attack Fanny Bolton's character because, well, she was institutionalized. That's the common Kevin Morgan junk that you hear. Well, you can't really listen to her if she was institutionalized. Well, first of all, she was institutionalized late, very late in Ellen White's career, near the end of her career, first of all, okay? There's a lot that happened before she was ever institutionalized. And I need you to be honest when you research Fanny Bolton to see why she was institutionalized. It was because of the guilt, fear, and manipulation and spiritual abuse that Ellen White put on this woman. This woman Fanny Bolton believed Ellen White to be a prophet. She was honored to work underneath Ellen White. But when she called matters of integrity up to Ellen White. Ellen White put major amounts of spiritual abuse, guilt, manipulation on her. Called her the spirit of the devil, child of the devil, like all these things, because she was going to expose Ellen White for writing, for promoting Fanny Bolton's articles as Ellen White's articles. So Fanny Bolton would write articles and compile them, and then she found that Ellen White would take those and put them in the review, in the articles, publish them as her own. And so Fanny Bolton would turn around and say, hey, listen, this isn't right. I feel like bringing this up. And when Ellen White found this out, she obviously turned on her. Now, the same is exactly true. The same is identically true with Marion Davis. Another one, again, you're going to see this with Lucinda, like anyone who opposed Ellen White, okay, and came out and kind of brought to the surface plagiarism, brought to the surface literary issues, or writing, like ghostwriting, what we would call ghostwriting. Man, if you went against Ellen White, she's the prophet. And she would just put you to the ground. So, let's get back to the topic at hand. I want to fast forward real quick, because this is 1877. I want to fast forward to 1905 again. I want to fast forward to 1905, and I want you to remember what was stated in 1873. Remember, she made this statement 10 years after her health message. I didn't have a particle of pepper in my house for 10 years. I've completely given it up. Really, Ellen? 10 years before you die. I thought by now you would learn this lesson, that you believe that this stuff causes damage mentally, physically, and spiritually. And here's what happened in 1905. I had turned an ill turn that night. The wind came up when we were searching for a place to rest. I think I took cold. I was in such severe pain, I called for cayenne pepper and obtained some relief. Interesting, Ellen. Apparently, okay, remember, okay, the same year she warned about pepper. This is 1905, friends. That is the exact same year that she claimed that pepper caused the blood to be feverish and impure. Same exact year. But because she's in severe pain, apparently it's okay to call on cayenne pepper. Now, this is an absolute direct, in the same year, contradiction. Why was she looking for pepper to relieve her pain when she believed and she was teaching that it caused the blood to be feverish and impure? I call spirit of hypocrisy. That's what I call it. This woman is a narcissist. She is a hypocrite. She is being guided and directed not from God. Now, to top all of this off, for decades, she frequently used, even prescribed, a health tonic. We're going to get into this. This is where it gets fun, friends. Okay? She frequently used and even prescribed a health tonic that contained what's called cubebs. C-U-B-E-B-S. Now, cubebs, if you don't know what those are, cubebs is a pepper almost identical to black pepper. So, what does all this evidence suggest? And we're going to look at the details of some of this stuff in just a second. Okay? I know I'm making a statement here, but we're going to go into the receipts for just a second. So what does this evidence suggest? Was Mrs. White, is she the spirit of prophecy? Is she the spirit of hypocrisy? Now, Mrs. White seemed to routinely introduce pepper into her own meals, and and even encouraged others to do the same, all while telling everyone that pepper should never enter the human stomach. Now, that's a bold claim, but the evidence is there. The quotes are there. If you track down the quotes and look at the dates, it's very, very clear. Now, this part of the conversation is where this gets really fun. My mind was blown when I discovered this. I had never heard this next thing before. I had never been told this or taught this. No one ever shared this with me. I want to turn our attention to a part of my research that I had never been introduced to. Many of you may know, maybe you know, of the connections that the early Advent movement had with a group called the Shakers. I don't know if you're familiar with the connections of the Shakers in this time period. Have you ever heard of a woman by the name of Elizabeth Temple? Well, let me fill in some context as we unravel this story, okay? Elizabeth Temple was born way back in the early 1800s, okay? And she had some serious challenges in her life. She married a gentleman by the name of James Lemon Temple. They actually had 2 sons together. Now, best we can understand and best of my research, her marriage was reasonably rocky, largely due to her husband's struggle with alcoholism, which led to a very tumultuous situation. It was filled with violence, adversity, all kinds of issues, okay? Now, if we rewind just a bit, in the late 1840s, now all of you should know how important the 1840s are to the Advent movement, right? This is the early stages, okay, of the Advent movement. Elizabeth connected with a group known as the Shakers. There was a connection. Elizabeth connected with the Shakers and kind of integrated with that group of people. For those unfamiliar with the Shakers were a unique, what's called a utopian religious community that was famous for their communal lifestyle, their impressive herbal remedies, and really their lifestyle in general. Okay, during many of the harsh winters that happened, many people, especially those down on their luck, they would seek refuge with the Shakers. Now, Elizabeth Temple was grappling with financial trouble. She was in between a rock and a hard place financially. So Elizabeth joined the Shakers and became immersed in their world of herbal medicine, which would seriously influence her later work. Okay, that's the 1840s, right? 1844 is the Great Disappointment, the early kind of movement, the little flock, all the stuff that goes on in the early kind of history of the Advent movement. So let's fast forward just a little bit. After her time with the Shakers and still dealing with some of her own health issues, Elizabeth actually runs into and meets up with Ellen and James White. And with Ellen and James White, with their support, she actually began to craft her own herbal remedies. Now, can you imagine? There's no FDA, there's no regulatory system. Can you imagine the experimentation that took place under these kind of circumstances? Now, she ended up creating a tonic that actually became very famous. The tonic is actually called Mrs. Temple's Renovating Remedy, the greatest medicine of the age. Now you can see there I've highlighted a few things at the top. Notice it says this remedy, it's in small print, okay? But this remedy, right up here, has, with the blessing of God, cured thousands of the following complaints. And they go through all of these things. Now, I want you to pay close attention. I didn't highlight it, but if you take a snapshot and you read this, you're going to see some of the things that pop up. And one of them is kidney complaints. Okay? Just hold that in the back of your mind as we're going through this, as we talk about the details of this. So guess what? This remedy, it takes off. By 1864, that's the date stamp of this, by 1864, she had sold thousands of bottles, claiming that it improved a whole host of health problems. Now, here's a fun fact. Ellen G. White, who had developed a very close relationship with Elizabeth, started using this very remedy herself. In fact, in her writings, we're going to look at the receipts on this. In her writings, she extolled how they positively affected her family and affected others. I mean, she talked about this. Now, talk about a great marketing process for a product. You have a prophet of God, an assumed prophet of God, that is willing to put a stamp of approval. Notice what it says. This remedy is a blessing of God. And it was actually stamped as approved by the prophetess. Now, Ellen actually claimed that this remedy helped alleviate various symptoms among her loved ones. She's going to claim that it basically giving it some sort of credibility, it boosted the idea and the concept inside the Adventist community. I mean, who wouldn't pay attention, right? You've got this supposed individual having dreams and visions from God who is praising it, claiming that it's taking away all of these remedies. Now, it gets better. Ellen's own testimonials about Mrs. Temple's remedy spread far and wide. She linked it not just to health, but also to divine intervention, which really solidified its place among people that were seeking kind of alternative treatments. It became much more than just a tonic. It became a symbol of hope and of healing in an era that was filled with uncertainty. But not so fast, everyone. Not so fast, okay? This particular tonic, marketed by Elizabeth Temple, it's called Mrs. Temple's Renovating Remedy. We're going to look at details on this, okay? This tonic claimed to cure a whole range of ailments. This was during an age where pharmaceuticals weren't around. There was no regulation. There was no oversight. Now, the actual ingredients, I've looked and kind of researched some of this. The actual ingredients weren't listed on the Bible, or on the bottle itself, okay? So this was not in the era where you had to notate every little thing that was on it, okay? So you can't actually find the ingredients by looking at what's on the bottom. I keep saying Bible. On the bottom. But we actually do have evidence of what the recipe was. This is where we absolutely know exclusively what the ingredients are. And this was handwritten in the back of Ellen White's diary. Now, where do we get this from? If you're questioning me, we get this from an Adventist scholar, Ron Graybill. If you want to read this, you can go check this out. This is an article that's published. You can read the whole article if you want. It's called Mrs. Temple, a Millennial Utopian. It's actually from Spectrum 47, issue 4, 2019. And I want you to pay attention to the actual ingredients. Okay, this is what was written. This is written in Ellen White's diary. What's in it is 5 ounce genetane, 5 ounces, bloodroot, 5 ounces. There we go, cubebs again. Okay, I mentioned that already. Cubebs, 3 ounces. Snake root, or serpent, is what it was also called, 3 ounces. And that is what's called, this is the medical name for snake root. And you'll see this in just a second, okay? Aristolochia serpentaria. Now, the snake root, and some description here, is the large kind, not the fine. All should be powdered finely and then mixed together. For use, take 1 spoonful of fine powder and steep in the pint of hot water. Dose a tablespoon 3 or 4 times a day before and after meals, as is convenient. Very clear. This is the recipe. Now, this is in Ellen White's diary. We know this to be the recipe. Okay. Now, while Mrs. Temple's remedy appeared free from alcohol, you notice there was no like alcohol stuff in it, right? It doesn't look like, I'll put it on the screen again. It doesn't look like there's any drugs. It doesn't look like there's alcohol. What is interesting is that it does include some very questionable ingredients. You have genetane. You need to figure out what that is. Bloodroot and snake root. Now, that should raise some eyebrows. If you know anything about any of these, it seems, okay, that Mrs. White had a favorable view of this tonic, and as we look at the details of what's in it, it should raise some eyebrows, okay? Now, I'm going to show some very clear evidence. If you look in 1876, she, and this is actually directly from the Ellen White website, okay? I just took a screenshot of it so that people understood where it was coming. 1876, she was preparing for camp meeting, and she asked her daughter-in-law, Mary, to send her as much of Mrs. Temple's powder as she could fit in an envelope. Okay, very clearly, this is a powder. Remember, it gets powdered up into a powder, and then you mix it. That's the way you use it, okay? Notice that she says very clearly, this is what she says, send me to Kansas, Mrs. Temple's powder, about as much as you can put in an envelope. Now, this is 1876. If you fast forward to 1882, now this is courtesy of the Ellen G. White estate. I had to do some deep diving into some of the archives and media documents and things of that nature, and I cut it on the screen because I didn't really need to read all the details of it. I wanted you to understand who it was coming from, okay? This is Dear Will, okay, and you'll notice Mary at the bottom. It's written, okay, Dear Will, and it says, we received your card and mother's letter last night. And notice what it says. Tell mother I will send the Mrs. Temple remedy tomorrow. All right? Very, very clear. 1882. Now let's keep moving. This is actually 1883, and I want you to notice at the top this was previously unpublished. No one would have known this until the White estate was hacked, and then all of these documents came out. These are some of the unpublished articles that no one really knew about. So this particular one says, Samuel Abbey owes me $300, just kind of back and forth. But this is Brother Whalen. Brother Whalen cannot keep many hands employed now until you come home. Tell him what to do about the heating apparatus. His health has been very poor, and notice what happens. But he's improving since I gave him... So Ellen White, this is actually a letter written by Ellen White. She's prescribing this tonic to someone and claiming that it's helping them. Okay? And I love the comments in here. I love the fact that you guys are Googling some of these things. You're going to find out on the screen where these ingredients come from. But yeah, Google these ingredients. Check them out. and see if this is like, oh, this is just, you can't make up this junk. You just can't make it up. This is just the drama unfolds. All right. Next, we have another incident. This is 1890, where, again, this is unpublished, where she's writing, Dear Mary, and here we have, she did the same thing to two other people. I have but a moment to write before Sabbath. I send you Mrs. Temple's remedy. Here it is again. Be sure and have Reba take it beginning quite weak. Then let her take the cough medicine, got up according to the recipe, and have Mabel make it too. So here we got her prescribing this again to someone else. Okay. All right. The next one, again, unpublished. We have here in 1895, Mrs. White's secretary, Fanny Bolton, that's who's here, started using Mrs. Temple's remedy. Oh, how come, just a side note, Adventist apologist, how come you don't bring up the fact that Ellen White is prescribing to Fanny Bolton this tonic and wait until you find what's in it? Maybe it's Ellen White's fault that she actually went crazy. Maybe it was some of the things she was saying and prescribing to Fanny Bolton. Try that on for size. She goes on. She has now been using Mrs. Temple's remedy and having relief. But I dare not put work upon her until she is better. This is 1895, and I want you to notice that she is positively thinking of Fanny Bolton here. That she's not upset at her. Notice what she says, for I need her labor so much. Yeah, Adventist apologists don't bring this up. She needed her for the literary work that she was doing, as long as she would keep quiet and not tell people. Ha-ha. Now, it doesn't stop here, okay? This is another, I had to dive pretty deep to find this one. We're going to look through a couple of items on this. This is a letter to Bessie Mount in 1965. Now, what's interesting about this in part of my research is that this is a request that this person is trying to find this recipe, any information about this that you can possibly get. So, and a couple of things to note in this. I want you to note that this is redacted. Okay, so for some reason the name is taken out of actually who's being talked to here. I don't know why. Okay, but it's redacted for some reason. So here she's saying a couple of items, and then you'll notice down here, I remember that Sister White used to make a brew of something that she called Mrs. Temple's remedy. And then she goes on and says, Sarah, this is actually, you can hardly see it up here, but this is Sarah McIntyre, used to make this for her, and it seemed to be a sort of general cure-all tonic or something that she, Sister White, indulged in quite frequently with apparent good results. Now notice that again, quite frequently. Okay, quite frequently. At least I remember she had much faith in the brew, which was the bitter stuff imaginable. In fact, it was terrible, for it stayed in the mouth so long, and its bitterness. Now notice at the bottom, Mrs. Temple's remedy filled the bill so far as being bitter was concerned. And then at the bottom, it says, I would appreciate it very greatly if you will look up this formula for Mrs. Temple's remedy and send it to me. So she was inquiring, looking, trying to find out this information. Now, moving on, and I've kind of clipped these two together so that you can kind of see the anecdote note at the very bottom here. I remember charcoal was one of her favorites. So, if you can find anything on any of these things as remedies, I wish you would send along. I will greatly appreciate it. Very sincerely, the individual. This is Bessie Bound. I do not wish you to go to too much trouble for whatever there is that Sister White may have written on the subject of herb remedies. That is what I'm trying to find just now. We are having some studies on the Reformation in medical practice that the Lord called for, here we go, in the 60s through the gift of prophecy in the church. So notice again that this is another evidence that someone's searching, right? Searching for this tincture, this remedy, and she's also adding in here that this was part of something that was the gift of prophecy through Ellen G. White. This was something that was really, really important, okay? So while Sister White aimed to improve the health with this remedy, that was what she was trying to accomplish. We can't ignore the issues of this particular item. Now, some of you have already done this, but I just want to quickly move through this. This is actually snake root, one of the items that's in this this remedy. Okay, Mrs. Temple's remedy. A scientific name here, which is what was on the recipe, Aristolochia sermentaria. The common name is snake root. Okay, notice here it says avoid the use of this. The extract is toxic. Avoid use in pregnancy. Now I'm just going to quickly peruse through here. This is actually taken from a medical article. The scientific name here, pregnancy, avoid if anyone is pregnant at all. There's really bad things. It's known to be a toxin. Now, it gets worse. There's adverse reactions. Extracts are known to be toxic. Now, I want you to notice this right here. They're known to be carcinogenic and nephrotoxic. Now, I didn't really know. I knew what carcinogenic was. I didn't really know what nephrotoxic is. This is really important to remember. One of the things that this tonic supposedly cured was kidneys. It helped with the kidneys. So I want you to pay attention. So what exactly what is carcinogenic and nephrotoxic? What are those items? Well, a carcinogenic it refers to any substance, organism, or agent that can cause cancer. This is a known cancer creator. It can lead to changes in cellular DNA resulting in uncontrolled cell growth and tumor formulation. Now pay attention to the next one because I didn't know what nephrotoxic is. Nephrotoxic is a substance that causes damage to the kidneys. And yet they're promoting this as curing kidney disease. And Ellen White is promoting this. So this takes snake root here, which is interesting that it's called serpent, okay? But snake root is actually, it was used by the Native Americans for snake bites. That's what it was originally used for. But it's now known as a carcinogen and a cause for kidney damage. So you have an Adventist supposed prophetess putting a stamp of approval on a tonic, using it, promoting it, giving it to other people, helping her market it, claiming that it was blessed by God, and yet it's a cancer creator and it causes kidney damage. This is false. This is what happens when you listen to someone that isn't actually the voice of God. This particular remedy, snakebite specifically, is currently banned. The US FDA banned this in 2000 in the US, and they banned it in 2004 in Europe. It's harmful. Now, I mentioned cubebs. So again, cubebs are literally Java pepper is what a cubeb is, which it's a type of pepper. It's from the pepper family. And it actually does have health benefits, but it's a pepper. It's like black pepper. Now, to give some context to Sister White's explicit warnings against consuming peppers. Okay, remember, she claimed, this is keeping it in context, she claimed that pepper caused the blood to be feverish and impure and should never enter the human stomach. And yet she's promoting something that has pepper in it, has carcinogens in it, has kidney damage issues in it, has, like, Do you see the problem, friends? Notice this. Okay, this is. I just want to remind you all. This is what she's saying. That mustard, pepper, spices, and pickles, and anything of its character, make the blood feverish and impure. Notice what else she says. I had used pepper and mustard in my diet. Well, isn't that a problem? I mean, like, it caused your blood to have issues, and she also connects that to being spiritually inept, basically. But these should not be put in the stomach. It causes the appetite to be perverted. What else does she say? She even goes on to say every child, every youth, every student of whatever age must respect the laws of health which God has established. Now, she's even calling this like, these are laws, right? Be careful, but by careful study and practice, we can become intelligent in regard to our bodies. Because of disease, the need of unnatural stimulants is felt to increase the vital action. Men think that this will prevent the evils of neglect, but it will only increase the danger. Now, notice what she says here. Okay, rum, tobacco, opium. Now, if you were here, you remember she was drinking cordials that potentially had opium in it. Okay, you can't prove that, but just remember, it's interesting that she picks out certain things. Rum, tobacco, opium increases the action of the impulse, but as soon as the immediate effect is gone, the system sinks below par. As much as it was elevated above. Now, irregardless of whether or not Ellen White did the previous items, right? Rum, opium, any of those things, okay? Which I would argue she maybe did, okay? But she's using it as an analogy to tell you the effects of these other things. This is the effect of the use of mustard, pepper, spices, tea, coffee, and all these drugs. Pretty damning, okay? So why was she prescribing a tonic? This is my question, friends. Why was she prescribing a tonic that included pepper in it? Cubeb. It's black pepper, which is a known stimulant. Why was she prescribing something that had a carcinogen in it that actually did damage the body? But to her point, if a cubeb is pepper and it is a known stimulant, okay? If all stimulating foods only do harm, then what was the logic here? Why was it okay? This is hypocrisy, friends. Now, for years, Seventh-day Adventist sanitariums actually listened to this one, listened to Ellen White's instruction to keep patients away from any kind of foods or remedies that contain peppers and spices specifically. There are many SDA families. I know some that took black pepper off their tables, threw it out. They removed it entirely because of what Ellen White said. Yet, Ellen White used it herself and is literally prescribing a tonic that has pepper in it. So, to wrap up the sugar and spice portion of this, even though she told others that sweets were bad for the stomach, her family enjoyed them. And despite stating that peppers and spices were not good for health and could irritate the stomach, made the blood feverish, all of those things, right? Despite all of that, despite those realities, this is what I want to remind you of. Now, remember, she wrote the testimonies to the church that supposedly surrounds the Bible with truth. So this is what she was concluding. She was thinking, Satan is corrupting mind. Now, I put this in the upper right. Notice it says, I was shown. This is an I was shown moment. She was shown these things, supposedly. Satan is corrupting minds and destroying souls through his subtle temptations. Will our people see and feel the sin of indulging perverted appetite? Will they discard tea, coffee, flesh meats, and all stimulating food and devote the means expended for these hurtful indulgences to spreading the truth? Notice what she was wanting. So, don't put money into all this stuff. You need to send it to us. That's what she was saying. These stimulants do harm. And yet we see that the large number of those who profess to be Christians are using tobacco. So despite stating that peppers, spices, were not good for health and could irritate the stomach, we have very clearly seen that Mrs. White herself recommended remedies that had the very items that she's claiming other people shouldn't have. So my question is this, and it's what we said in the onset. Is this the spirit of prophecy? Or is it the spirit of hypocrisy? This is what we're trying to unravel. Now, for the sake of the conversation where we're headed, I would ask all of you to just pause for a second, and if you have a hot drink, I would encourage you to just grab a hot drink and let's take a minute to wet our whistle and have a hot drink. Let's get prepared for the final segment, the final countdown. We're halfway through, friends. I told you this was going to be a long night. And we're going to move through this faster than the first half. I promise. Okay? But I want to pivot just a little bit. I want to talk about Ellen White's perspective on tea and coffee. Now, even before her health reform vision in 1863, she had already adopted Joseph Bates' stance against these beverages already. Back in 1853, she saw, supposedly in vision, she saw this. I saw the brethren using tobacco tea, and that it was a needless expense and had a bad effect upon the cause. Now, notice the date in this. This is 1853. This is very early on. Okay, if we fast forward to 1861. She says this: a different work is laid upon brother. Now, I will just say this on the onset. This is a very arrogant statement. But she says this: a different work is laid upon brother White than is laid upon you, the person that she's writing to. Gladly would he exchange his work for yours if God would so order it. But no, he must fulfill his mission and you must fulfill yours. You know but little of trials and burdens of self-denial. Talk about spiritual badgering. You gratify your appetite. You stimulating drinks as tea. Your influence should be to discourage the use of tea and coffee, but it has been to encourage their use in the churches. Ministers of Christ are looked up to as an example. Okay. So here you get this concern. You see this concern arising for these stimulant drinks. It's very, very concerned. Now, 1861 still. One minister visits the churches preaching against these hurtful stimulants. Brother Frisbee follows after and uses tea to excess. Such things throw the church into confusion. When the effects of tea are gone from your system, there is I think that's languor, a weakness. You use tea. It stimulates you, makes you feel a great deal better until the influence of it wears off. Then you are worse off than before. Pay attention. It becomes ministers of Christ to deny themselves of these things and exert an influence to have their use discontinued among Sabbath keepers. And the means spent for these things, where should they go, friends? Trace the money, and it always tells you where this is. Don't be drinking tea and coffee. Sacrifice that and use the money and send it to us for the cause. Interesting. Interesting. In fact, she very clearly advised the congregation. I mean, she was telling the minister here to just to not use it, and she's actually going to label. In just a second, you're going to see it. She's going to label tea and coffee to a pretty big extreme. Now, if we move forward to 1864, I've said it in other conversations, but 1864 it's kind of a pivotal moment in Ellen White's health reform, because she visits Dr. Jackson's clinic in 1864, and at this point, Dr. Jackson didn't allow his patients to drink coffee and tea. And so she's going to actually kind of ratchet up her opinion here based on her understanding. And she says this: tea and coffee are stimulating. Their effects are similar to those of tobacco, but their effect is of less degree. Those who use these, now notice what she says, slow poisons. That's what she's calling it. Tea and coffee are poisons, like the tobacco user. She's using that as an analogy, okay? Think they cannot live without them because they feel so very badly when they do not have these idols. Kind of like Sabbath is an idol to Adventists, right? I mean, they can't imagine living without it. There's a thought. Those who indulge a perverted appetite do it to the injury of health and intellect. They cannot appreciate the value. Here she goes again. She's ratcheting it up, okay? They cannot appreciate the value of spiritual things. Their sensibilities are blunted, and sin does not appear very sinful. Now, I want you to notice, friends, that this is what she thinks tea and coffee does. So, tea and coffee they become idols. You can't give them up. They pervert your appetite, and then they injure your health. Why? Because you can't. Not only can you not function, but now you can't even appreciate spiritual things. And you can't even tell what sin is. If you're drinking tea and coffee, friends, you don't even know what sin is. Now, from this point on, Ellen is going to condemn these beverages hundreds of times in her writings. And she's going to go as far as, she already says it here, she's going to go as far as saying that they're a sin. Notice what she says here. She says that tea and coffee drinking is a sin. This is 1896 that she makes this statement. Tea and coffee drinking is a sin and injurious indulgence which, like other evils, injures the soul. She even claims that she didn't want the sanitariums to deal with these types of drugs. She called them drugs, okay? To educate fellow beings to let them alone. By eating and drinking to the glory of God, we shall avoid much sickness. Now, I have to make this statement because in the previous slide, I just have to bring this up. She's going to continue to roast ministers and lay workers. She's going to just rattle off all kinds of things. Okay, she's going to condemn them. She's going to call them evil, soul killing, items. She calls them sin. She tells the sanitariums not to deal with them, and then she even goes on. Okay, notice what she says. It just gets worse and worse and worse in her mind. When these tea and coffee drinkers meet together for social entertainment, the effects of their habit are manifest. All partake freely of the favorite beverages, and as the stimulating influence is felt, Now, notice what she says. This is tea and coffee drinkers, okay? If you drink tea and coffee, this is what happens, especially in social occasions. This is what happens. Their tongues are loosened, and they begin the wicked work of talking against others. Their words are not few or well chosen. The tidbits of gossip are passed around. Too often, the poison of scandal as well. Poison of scandal as well. Now, please remember this one. Please remember this one. This is one to write any Adventist friend you know about that's a tea or a coffee drinker. Did you know that an unseen watcher is writing their words in the books of heaven? All these unkind criticism, again, this is because of tea and coffee. These exaggerated reports, these envious feelings expressed under the excitement of a cup of tea, Jesus registers against himself. Friends, if this is not blasphemous heresy and horrible theology, I don't know what. Like, this woman is a witch. This is horrible, friends. Jesus is not writing down, oh, they're drinking tea. Oh, yeah. They're drinking tea. Now I need to write down all these things. All these things because their tongues are loose. Now she's going to continue to roast ministers, lay workers, and the like for eating meat, drinking tea, consuming these horrible items, okay? I mean, she's going to go on. Notice, this is, let our ministers and canvassers step under the banner of strict temperance. Never be ashamed to say, no, thank you. I do not eat meat. No, thank you. If tea is offered, refuse it, giving your reason for so. Explain that it's harmful. It's a stimulus and it wears off. Apparently, when it wears off, you get depressed. That's what she thinks. This is 1901. Intoxicating drink, tobacco, meat, tea, and coffee injure the digestive organs and weaken the brain power. Intoxicating drink, tobacco, meat, tea, and coffee all cause disease, disqualifying the user for the work of God. All right, so the next time you see an Adventist pastor that's drinking coffee, you need to tell them that, no, don't do that. That would just... But here's the thing. Understand that this is very late. This is 1901. Okay, so Adventist apologists that see this later on, okay, you can't say that her ideas, okay, they were progressive as light was shown. This is garbage, okay? She is claiming this at the end of her life, and that means that if it's a truth, it's a truth. It's not like, well, I mean, it kind of wasn't before. And really, this begs the question, okay? If she's eating meat, if she's drinking tea, by the way, she actually drank coffee too, but if she ever did any of this stuff, or if other ministers do any of this stuff, does this basically mean that they're incapable? What about all the letters she wrote under the influence of tea and vinegar wine and tomato wine and cordials and... Now, in an 1855 testimony, 1855, she says this, okay? Again, she already said this in 1901, okay? But now she's even saying this back in 1855. So it's not like this was progressive. She knew this stuff all the way back then. Tea is poisonous to the system. Christians should let it alone. The influence of coffee is a degree the same as tea, but the effect upon the system is still worse. Its influence is exciting, and just in the degree that it elevates above par, it will exhaust and bring prostration below par. And she even says tea and coffee drinkers carry the mark upon their faces. Friends, you can tell, like, they've got the mark. Oh, they're tea and coffee drinkers. What? The skin becomes sallow and assumes a lifeless appearance. The glow of health is not seen upon the countenance. Now, how many of you know this is absolute false? Like, you can have coffee rubs, and actually it makes your skin better. Okay? Tea and coffee do not do this. They absolutely do not cause marks upon your face. This is absolutely asinine ideas. This is horrible. Now, Ellen wrote that both of these, tea and coffee, cause diseases of all different kinds, that they ruin the physical and mental and moral powers, which is some very serious condemnation. Notice what she says: diseases of every stripe and type have been brought upon human beings by the use of tea, coffee, narcotics, opium, and tobacco. These hurtful indulgences must give up not only one, but all. But all are hurtful and ruinous to the physical, mental, and moral powers, and should be discontinued from a health standpoint. The common use of flesh and dead animals has had a deteriorating influence upon the morals. If you eat dead animals, your morals go out the window. I mean, do you blame individuals that were listening to her and thought of her as a prophetess of God? Do you blame them for giving up this stuff? I mean, she was speaking this as if it was directly from God. I mean, she's claiming that you're going to have marks on your skin because of tea and coffee. Your moral, physical, and spiritual ability is going to be damaged. You're unable to like. All right. I think you get the picture, right? So let's dive into the contradiction part. Let's just dive into some of these. Okay, did Ellen White have contradictory behavior towards tea? With all these dire warnings, again, horrible physical, mental, spiritual consequences for drinking tea. You might expect her to avoid it, right, with a plague. I mean, you would think so. But surprisingly, her own private writings reveal, surprise, surprise, if you're brand new here, this should not surprise you, that she actually drank tea with quite a bit of regularity. In fact, this was such a big deal that her close friend, Elder E.P. Daniels, actually accuses her of not just having tea in her house, but also serving it to others. Now, of course, true to Ellen White, she's going to say she didn't, but this is her response. Dear brother, several had said to me that brother and sister Daniels were in the habit of using tea. And when they were spoken to it in regard of it, they had stated, that Mrs. White kept tea in her house, drank it herself, and advised you to drink it. It is difficult for me to believe that you have said this, although the same testimony has come from several. So just notice what's happening here. Okay, she's going to deny this claim. And that's for Adventist apologists, that's good. Well, she said she didn't do it, so it's fine. But understand that you have friends of her that are saying, wait a second, I've seen you drink this. It was in your house. Why are you saying it's not okay for me when you do it? Remember Ellen White, what she said about hypocrisy, right? This is the exact thing that she's being accused of. Now, if we go back to 1876, we have another interesting kind of synopsis. Now, this is her traveling. So while she's traveling, she wrote to her son, Willie, about how the porters were getting them tea and milk whenever they wanted it. So just notice that here, our lunch went well, all these things, okay, again, and what happens? So she says to her son, the porters have waited upon us getting tea and milk when we wanted it. So sounds kind of pharisaical, right? I mean, seems pretty big deal, right? So she seems to find these ways, and this is what's really interesting about the scenario, is she finds her own ways around her own rules. If she's traveling, it's okay. If she's sick, it's okay to indulge in things that actually make you sick, but because you're sick, you can use them. It's opportune. Now, isn't it ironic that Ellen White was sick her whole life? Constantly dealing with sickness. She constantly traveled. Those are two great ways of being able to indulge in the very things that you tell other people not to. Just seems a little convenient. Now, here's the twist, okay? She wouldn't allow other sick individuals to use tea, but she could use it. In 1902, Sister White firmly stated that no tea, coffee, or flesh meat should be served at any sanitariums. Very clearly. Okay, this is letter 213, 1902. This is actually in a compilation that was put together in 1938. But this was written in 1902, and it says it is right that no tea, coffee, or flesh meat be served in our sanitariums. Too many, that is the great change of a severe deprivation. To enforce other changes, such as a change in the number of meals in a day, is likely, in the case of some, to do more harm than good. You shouldn't do too much, but absolutely no tea, coffee, or flesh meat. Now, she was adamant that these were health-destroying items. This is, again, 1902. Neither tea nor coffee should be served. It's a different letter. Caramel cereal, or caramel, I guess, made nicely as possible, should be served in a place of these health-destroying beverages. So she's claiming, in context, that tea and coffee are health-destroying beverages. That in place of that, you should use this caramel cereal that probably was unhealthy. I don't know. I don't know anything about it. Now, she would even describe herbal tea specifically from China as injurious, deleterious, and poisonous to the human system. She specifically says, that is, they depend for their herb drink. Notice what she says up here. Vinegar, tea, and coffee, okay? They're not educated in these things. Now remember, we already saw that vinegar literally was something that she struggled with. Tea she struggles with. Later on we're going to see the coffee is as well. And she eats a lot of sweets. Okay? That is, they depend for their herb drink on tea from China and coffee from Java. Coffee from Java beans, basically. Okay? These things are injurious, deleterious to the human system. Tea and coffee are stimulants and poisons, and their effects have been presented before them. Now, this was apparently presented to her. Okay, remember, just remember, this was supposedly presented to her. She was shown this. So don't forget that she was sick her entire life. So remember, what does she say? I don't use tea. I don't use tea, green or black. Not a spoonful has passed my lips for many years. Except, here's the exception, right? Oh, it's evil. It damages you spiritually. It's a sin to have this. Except when I travel. And once on this side, I took it as, oh, travel and medicine. When I was sick and vomiting. I mean, then it's okay. Clearly. All right? There's not a problem then. She says it again. Once when I'm crossing the sea, I was sick. I did take a little wheat tea as medicine. It's okay. It's okay if it's a medicine. But I don't want any of you to make the remark that Sister White uses tea. Ellen White, you just said you use tea. Like, you either use it or don't. You can't say you use it and then say, well, I don't want other people to say I use it, even though I use it. Oh, it's only for medicine purposes. Well, then you use it. You use it for medicinal purposes. Why don't you just say that and be honest? Knowing its influence, I would not dare to use it, here we go again, except medicinally, but not as a beverage. She was sick her entire life, friends. I have felt alarmed for you for some time because of your use of tea and wines. Oh, can't believe it. Of all things, you should touch not, taste not, handle not anything like tea, coffee, wine, beer, brandy, or any stimulus. By the way, all of those are actually quite delicious. I do say so. So it's pretty counterintuitive that a substance she labeled as a poison and banned from SDA sanitariums. Remember, she banned it from sanitariums. You're supposed to be healthy, but yet now you're using it as a medicine. She banned it from them to use as medicines, but yet she allows herself to use it for medicinal purposes. This is hypocrisy. Now we're in the final stretch, friends. We're going to try to get this all wrapped down in the next 30 minutes. So let's dive into this. She has a very complex relationship with tea and hot drinks. For instance, she uses it during her travels. She avoids it elsewise, but it's okay when she travels. She allegedly uses it for seasickness. She didn't just rely on it while on the water. She also mentions using wheat tea as medicine. In fact, she even admitted to having a bag of red clover tea in her home. Oh, but I only used it for medicinal purposes, not as a beverage. It's almost as if labeling it as a medicine now somehow makes it okay. At least for her, but it's not okay for the sanitarium. It's very similar to how she viewed alcohol. It's almost identical. Well, I don't drink alcohol, but when I am sick, I do have some wine and an egg. Now, what about, as we finish this out, what about her stance? Now, this is where it really gets hairy. Okay, this is just some odd stuff. Okay, but what about her stance on hot drinks? Now, you would think that, okay, Mike, you're really getting nitpicky about this. Just pay attention, though, what she says about hot drinks, okay? One of Ellen White's health rules that almost no modern Adventists even pay attention to is her outright prohibition of any hot drinks. Okay? Now, back in 1855, she's going to make this claim. She claims to receive this warning directly from God. This is, again, testimonies from the church, directly from God. And she says this: hot drinks are debilitating to the stomach. Cheese should never be introduced into the stomach. By the way, she ate cheese, but only a little bit. That was her whole thing. Fine flour bread cannot impart to the system the nourishment that you will find in the unbolted wheat bread. By the way, that's just... Anyways, the common use of bolted wheat bread cannot keep the system in a healthy condition. You both have inactive livers. Now, she's going to equate, this is again, understand, she's saying that this is to a specific person, but she's basically saying that the hot drinks are debilitating to the stomach, and that it is causing their livers, because of what they're eating, it's causing their livers to be inactive. Now, I'm not a medical professional, okay? But if you're writing to someone and you tell them their liver is inactive, they're dead. If your liver is inactive, you're dead, literally. Okay, so just whether or not they could not have had inactive livers. Okay, if you don't have an active, like if your livers are gone, they're not active, you are absolutely dead. Google it. Go look it up on the net. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure that out. Okay. Just a year earlier from this, she referred to hot drinks as enslaving and debilitating. Hot drinks are debilitating. And besides, those who indulge in their use become slaves to the habit. Food should not be washed down. No drink is needed with meals. I wondered where this came from. I was told, you shouldn't drink with your meals. You shouldn't drink with your meals. I've had to unlearn a lot of stuff in my day. Now, she was very adamant about food not being washed down, very adamant, insisted that no drink at meals. Now, in 1882, 2 years prior, she even forbade her workers from using bran coffee. Now, bran coffee was an alcohol-free coffee substitute made from roasted wheat bran. This would literally kill my wife. She couldn't have this at all. She notes this, okay? She says, I told my girls I did not wish them to get accustomed to drinking hot drinks with their foods, as it was, do you notice the theme? Debilitating to the stomach, okay? I forbid her giving the children, any of them, hot drinks. When she called for a hot bran drink, Sister McNim said she was told not to give any of the girls hot drinks. Just crazy stuff. When one of her helpers, actually Sarah, serves warm drinks to the children, Sister White very quickly goes, no. She put her foot down, right, saying, you cannot do this. Now, this is 1882. We fast forward to 1901. She says this. She's very passionate about exclaiming how hot drinks and hot food enfeeble the organs of the body. Interesting. Hot drinks are not required except, here we go again. Except as a medicine. What is this thing with this woman? Except as a medicine. The stomach is greatly injured by a large quantity of hot food and hot drink. Thus, the throat and the digestive organs, and through them, the other organs of the body are enfeebled. Now, my friends, if you're drinking or eating hot food that actually damages your throat, you have serious problems. Like you're drinking boiling water. Or you're eating a ton of ghost peppers, or you're something crazy, okay? And she somehow claims that this now also causes all kinds of additional food issues or challenges with other organs in your body. Like what happens? Like all your organs start shutting down because you're drinking hot drinks? like this woman. So you notice it, large quantities of food, hot drinks. They're going to compromise your food. And I absolutely love what one commenter said, justification by food. I mean, that's really what's going on. I mean, what do I need to wear? What do I need to eat? What do I need to drink? Where do I need to send my food? What are all the things I need to do? What did God say about this? What did he say about that? What did he do about this? Oh, I can't eat that. Can't behave this way. Can't. Do you ever wonder why people go insane with this kind of legalistic theology? Do you ever wonder why people feel enslaved by the witch? And again, this is spiritually damaging to the soul. So considering these types of beliefs, again, I would ask you, how do you reconcile her personal use of tea with her own strict prohibition of hot drinks? I mean, you can't drink anything hot. What do we make of these contradictions? Now, again, I'm going to roll through some of these very quickly as we go into this, because she has made a statement that any hot drink, just understand that she claims, I'll put it back on the screen to set the stage, 1901. Hot drinks injure the stomach. They're damaging. Hot drinks. Not just hot tea, hot coffee. Okay? Tea and coffee is a whole other category. But the hot part, hot drinks, they're damaging. So we're going to go on a rail of comments here. Now, here's what I would say as we go through these. I'm going to jump through these very quickly. I am intentionally not showing any context here because I just want you to see. There's no reason to show context in these. She makes a statement. She just clearly says that they drink it. So you're welcome to look all these comments up and look at all the context, okay? But I just want to understand in the onset, she claims that hot drinks debilitate the stomach and they should never be consumed. And then we're going to see a plethora of statements where she actually does the exact opposite. We had hot drinks, hot water to drink with our cold crackers, 1873. In 1875, while here's an okay thing because she's traveling, she expressed hope for getting a hot cup of water to drink. Then in 1877, when Mary, her daughter-in-law, cooked breakfast on a little stove, and they all had hot drinks together. Well, look at that. I guess she didn't take her own advice. 3 years later, 1880. Again, this is a continual thing in her life. During a chilly train trip. Oh, she's traveling. This is why. Of course. Silly me. When you're traveling, it's okay to do things that it's not okay when you're home. That sounds like horrible. What did she have? Hot chicken soup. I thought you weren't supposed to have liquid with your meal. Oh, that was just drinking water. That's right. Hot chicken soup. We were excellently provided. 1885. We only drank the hot drinks it was just out of tiny China. We had no occasion to eat them. 1886. Again, while traveling, you see the theme here, ordered hot drink to our room. 1887, she identified and indicated that they tried to counteract the coldness in their throat, lungs, and stomach with hot drinks. Well, Ellen, don't you know that hot drinks damage the throat? Come on, Ellen. That same year, she ate a couple of crackers and took a hot drink. And we don't really know what this is. Is it just hot water? Is it a hot drink? Is it a hot toddy? It's a good point. We don't know what it was. I mean, she was traveling because anything could. Again, all you have to say is, well, listen, I was traveling, I was sick. That's all you have to do to get away with it. This is the problem with her hypocrisy. And it's the reason why I believe she's a false prophet. She is a hypocrite. A year later, what does she say? This is her own denial, okay? I don't use tea or other green or black except, oh wait, do I need to tell Ellen that that means she uses it? If there's an exception, it means that you use it. It's just interesting to me that she denies the use of it, except while she's traveling. Again, I've said this. A lot of excuses. It's just incredible. Now, 1890, Brother Hicks provides hot water for me to drink before retiring. I told you there was going to be a lot of these. She also wrote that while she was getting hot drinks at a restaurant even. Refreshed with these warm drinks, we tried to get a hot cup of drink. Again, you wonder if that maybe was some other like concealed word for hot toddies or hot whatever. Some sort of hot. Yeah, I don't know. That's speculation. Here she steps into a restaurant across the street, and what does she call for? A warm drink, hot water and milk. Interesting. And it refreshed them. 1891, we obtained a cup of hot drink and some crackers, which made us feel very much better. Now, she made a claim here that this made her feel better. Now, pay attention here. I ate a few crackers and a biscuit and drank a hot cup of drink. This is multiple times. And now she's going to have homemade coffee. And of course, apologists will say, well, that wasn't the coffee. That wasn't the caffeine coffee. Well, okay, still hot drink. If that suits your fancy, okay, but she admits to having homemade coffee, whatever that is. Find the recipe on what that is. Prove to me that it's not actual coffee. It's still hot. So, I mean, I don't know how you're going to get out of that argument unless you're just going to lie and be a hypocrite like your prophetess. In 1898, she mentions serving good hot vegetable soup. Hey, you know, that is a hot beverage, right? That's hot liquid going down your throat. And then finally in 1903, we were glad to have a warm room and hot water to drink. So, despite her very strict guidelines against hot drinks, for others, we see that she's using it very clearly. And we even can see, again, I'm going to show you, this is from the same interview that I showed you earlier from her granddaughter, reveals that during the family dinners, they would have warm drinks like malted milk, caramel cereal, which again had sugar in it, okay, and the precursor to coffee substitutes like Postum. That's what this is right here. Now back to breakfast, and she kind of goes through this, that, whatever, and she basically says, well, Ellen White would just say don't drink copious amounts. Because we had tomato juice, we had a little glass, you know, a little, what's a cocktail at dinner time? Tell me what that is. Her granddaughter's saying that she had cocktails. At breakfast time, we had this malted milk, and sometimes we had the cereal coffee from the food factory. Did they call it caramel cereal coffee? Interesting. Now let's just take a moment here to reflect back as we exit out of the conversation on the impact of Ellen G. White's teachings regarding hot drinks. How have they affected the lives of Seventh-day Adventists? How many careful, supposedly God-fearing Adventists follow her testimonies, especially the testimonies that circle around the Bible to protect it? They refuse to drink hot drinks. They refuse, again, she says. How many have suffered through maybe chilly, frosty weather? No, she says hot drinks. Can't do it. Health guidelines. Can't have coffee, can't have tea. It's a sin. I remember being told personally, you really shouldn't be drinking water or any kind of liquid at your meal. Like just you don't need it. Even though my mouth is parched and I need water, because supposedly it injures the organs. Meanwhile, as we have seen tonight, Ellen and her family routinely ignore her own advice, choosing to drink hot beverages to warm themselves, enjoying hot soups along with their crackers, enjoying all the other things that they're telling everyone else not to do. Even more striking, and this is where we're going to kind of round the bases, even more striking is her condemnation of Pastor Collins. Now, Pastor Collins was found, heaven forbid, was found drinking. I chuckle at this. Pastor Collins was found consuming meat and drinking tea. And man, she lit into Minister Collins. She said this: "And your disregard for health reform is unfitting you to stand as the Lord's messenger. Indulgence in meat eating and tea drinking and other forms of self-pleasing is injurious to the health and the body and the soul." So friends, she is claiming that this pastor is incapable of doing the Lord's work because he is drinking tea, eating meat, and doing things that are self-pleasing. Now, damaging basically health and spiritual well-being of this individual. So here's my question. If eating meat and drinking tea renders Pastor Collins unfit to be the Lord's messenger, her quote, not mine, doesn't that make Ellen White unfit? This should be an exact mic drop moment to throw Ellen White out if you actually take her writings seriously. How can she prescribe such strict health guidelines for others while partaking in the same indulgence that she condemned? It seems like we are called to not be double-minded. And yet she is a double-minded woman. In fact, let's go back to what we said in the beginning. What did Ellen White herself say? So if hypocrisy is allowed to exist in the heart, it permeates the character and life. Yes, it does. Maybe one of the things that actually she said that is true. So, friends, this is a clarion call. I am begging you, for all who follow the writings and teachings of Ellen White, please, it is time to examine the foundations of your Adventist faith. The early apostles spoke about this. We've looked at this before, but this is in the didact. The early apostles spoke about this, and you don't have to take this as scripture. Okay, but this is something. Now, the didact was generally believed to be written in its late first century, second century. And yes, you can argue that there are things that you don't agree with in the didact. I understand that. Friends, even the early apostles in the church had a standard for hypocrisy, that any prophet who teaches the truth, if he, or I would say she, does not practice what he preaches and teaches, he is a false prophet. So my question to my Adventists that are watching, are you following the directions of a fallible human? A human being that contradicted her own principles? Or are you seeking the unshakable truth that's found in the Word of God? Are you seeking the way and the truth, which is Jesus Christ? The Bible calls us to be discerning and warns us against these types of things. Matthew 7:15 to 16. Beware of false prophets who come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly are ravenous wolves. You will know them by their fruits. Are grapes gathered from thorns, or figs from thistles? Ellen G. White's life, her legacy, if you can call it that, it should serve as a sobering reminder to turn away from the allure of charismatic leaders. Charismatic leaders who stray from biblical truth. Instead, friend, please anchor your faith in Scripture, God's infallibly inspired Word, and His teachings. The teachings of Jesus Christ, the writings of Scripture, they're clear, they're unchanging. Let this be the pivotal moment in your life to seek genuine spiritual guidance from the Word of God. Turn back to the Bible, the ultimate source of truth. Let go of the influences that may lead you away from the path of righteousness. Stand firm against hypocrisy, false teachings. You have the truth. Embrace the life-transforming power of God's Word. Now, in our next episode, we're going to delve into, again, another fascinating part of Ellen White's legacy, her fixation on jewelry and adornments. We're going to be exposing the White Estate cover-up in pictures. Yes, there was a cover-up with pictures where they photoshopped out jewelry on Ellen White or in the picture. And they published these in Ellen White's autobiographies written by Arthur White. We're not just going to skim the surface. We never skim the surface here. We don't do that. We will provide dozens of quotes for the research, as we did tonight, over 100 quotes. But ultimately, it's up to you to decide whether she actually is the spirit of prophecy or whether or not she veered into the realm of witchcraft and the realm of hypocrisy. So thank you, friends, for spending the time. I know it's been a long 3-hour segment, but thank you for spending the time, digging hard, asking the hard questions. I hope you continue to wrestle with the questions. If tonight's journey is surprising, if it's challenging, if it's uncomfortable, if you heard something that made you go, ooh, good, I'm glad. That means we're actually thinking. We're opening our minds. I can't wait to continue the examination of the spirit of hypocrisy and see what else kind of rattles loose from the narrative. Now, please subscribe, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, hit the share button if you haven't already. Continue to leave your comments, please, as we exit the live stream. I would love to hear your comments as you continue to do your study and research. Bring your questions. We will hopefully be doing some additional live stream Q&As coming up. Bring your questions, because this conversation is far from being over. We are just getting started. So thank you for being here. I'm Mike Colburn from the Thinking Cup. I'll see you on the next episode, where we're going to continue to shine the light on the uncomfortable side of truth. Until then, keep searching, friends. Keep testing and keep thinking for yourself. Use the brain that God has given you. Study for the truth, and may hypocrisy be exposed. Stay curious, and good night.